Every year, we round up some of the best new and upcoming games of the current year on all the major platforms. And today, we're talking PlayStation 5/PlayStation 4. So here are 25 games releasing throughout 2023. So let's get started off with number 25. Pragmata has been dubbed by some as Capcom's take on like a science fiction Hideo Kojima-esque action-adventure game. It's set in a dystopian near future, and that reveal trailer we got to see a while back didn't really tell us much, but honestly, the game looked really cool. This is one that was technically slated for 2023, but since it was revealed, we haven't really heard too much about it. We're hoping to get a new glimpse soon, maybe at a PlayStation showcase or some sort of event, because like we've said in a lot of videos recently, Capcom has been doing great. They've really been hitting some wins, and we're hoping this is a new one to put on the list. Now, next over at number 24, we have RoboCop: Rogue City. This is a first-person shooter set in an 80s Detroit where you're playing as Alex Murphy himself, the original RoboCop, even voiced by Peter Weller. They've recently revealed a bit more gameplay, and it looks kind of almost cyberpunk-esque in terms of the first-person gameplay. And to be honest, I'm still not totally sure how I feel about it. As a diehard RoboCop fan, I'm really picky with this stuff, but it is from the developers that brought us the last Terminator game. It was kind of like a lower-budget Terminator game, but it was the first one in a while that actually kind of understood the source material, so we're hoping they can do it again with Rogue City, but we're gonna have to wait and see. Next over at number 23, we have Aliens: Dark Descent. This was actually revealed at a Summer Game Fest event in 2022, and this is essentially taking the Aliens franchise, or really specifically Cameron's Alien movie with the cool action and the Space Marines, and putting it in a top-down action shooter where you're fighting off hordes of aliens. That's really all we know as of right now. The trailer has only given us brief glimpses of gameplay. We don't know how it's actually going to go down, but the last couple of Aliens games we've actually really enjoyed, and for them to go top down and maybe a little bit of a Diablo style thing, that could be pretty sweet. It has a lot of potential, and we're gonna see it sometime this year. Now, next over at number 22, we have The Lords of the Fallen. This is the follow-up to Lords of the Fallen, the Souls-like game from a few years back that some people really dug. This one is going in a totally different direction, with more of a fantastical side to it, with some really cool art direction and new spins on some familiar mechanics. We like the original Lords of the Fallen. We thought it was kind of underrated, but we do really like that they're kind of shaking up the look of this one. It looks pretty sweet. It looks like a metal album come to life. And it's dropping some point this year. Now, next over at number 21, we have Atomic Heart. The kind of dubbed as a Bioshock-inspired first-person shooter adventure. It's actually kind of more like Wolfenstein, with how it takes kind of like an alternate future, plays with history a little bit. This time, instead of Germany or something like that, it's the Soviet Union who has technological breakthroughs and invents robots and creates a society, but unfortunately, all the robots go crazy, and you gotta shoot them and hit them with stuff. And while it's not a perfect game, it's got a lot of flaws. It's not like a big AAA title. It's got some significant issues. The game is at the very least still unique. It's got some satisfying combat and some really cool upgrade and like level up trees. And if you're curious, you can check it out now. Now, next over at number 20, we have Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon. From Software, the developers behind the Dark Souls games, and of course most recently Elden Ring, are going back to their roots and working on the classic game series once again. Armored Core 6, as of right now, we don't know too much about it other than the fact that they're not just making it a Souls-like game. They said that they've wanted to stick to the mech combat formula, but they are going to add some challenge and some cool bosses and stuff like that. And as of right now, that's all we really know. From Software is usually pretty secretive about their titles up until they're closer to release, but when they revealed it, they said 2023, so we're hoping we hear more soon. Next over at number 19, we have Tchia. This is honestly a little bit of a change of pace compared to the other games on this list, but it's like a quirky action adventure that centers around a young girl. She has magical abilities and can kind of like seemingly jump into different animals and inanimate objects. And it's kind of about navigating the world, avoiding some of the hostile elements, and solving puzzles. And honestly, the vibes and the art direction here just look really cool. Next over at number 18, we have Arc Raiders. This is an upcoming free-to-play cooperative shooter in third person, which is pretty sweet if you ask us. You're seemingly looting and shooting and customizing your character with your friends cooperatively and fighting off against like a robotic alien invasion. We can't judge the gameplay yet, but the style of this game looks straight up really cool. Next over at number 17, we have the System Shock Remake. They've been working on this one for a long time. It's a remake of the classic PC game that really changed a lot for a lot of players. And it's been resurfacing recently, having a demo on Steam for PC players, and it is slated for the platforms, including PlayStation, and 2023 seems to finally be the year. Next, over at number 16, we have Lies of P. This is yet another Souls-like inspired game, but it's centered around a kind of dark and gritty Pinocchio, where you play as the young puppet boy running around, killing other automatons and creatures in a spooky, almost Bloodborne-looking setting. And you know what? If we're never going to get a Bloodborne 2, this thing looks like the next best thing, and I will absolutely take that. Lies of P is thankfully coming this summer. Next, over at number 15, we have Alone in the Dark. Yes, this is like a kind of reimagining of the classic game. It seems to be the year for a lot of survival horror games to come back, and this one is a reimagining of like one of the first 3D survival horror games ever. Like the original was from 1992. It's so old. And you're once again going to be playing as the classic Edward Carnby exploring a mysterious kind of haunted mansion. And we don't know too much about it, but we know it's being published by THQ Nordic, who has kind of had a thing for bringing back old franchises. And from what we've seen, it looks pretty far along, and we're probably going to see it this year. Next, over at number 14, we have Alan Wake 2. Remedy has been killing it. To be honest, we're a little biased. They're one of our favorite developers in recent years, from the original Alan Wake to Max Payne to even Quantum Break, and of course, most recently Control. Alan Wake 2 is changing it up from the original Alan Wake and going full survival horror this time around. That's really all we know about it. We got a reveal trailer. We know it's coming in 2023, and the original was an underrated gem, so hopefully Alan Wake 2 really blows things out of the water. Next, over at number 13, we have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which we're pretty sure might be coming this year, and it's the next saga in the whole Final Fantasy VII Remake thing, which, as you probably know without spoiling too much, definitely shakes things up a bit, so we're really excited to see where Rebirth really goes. The most recent thing we heard from the publisher Square Enix is that it's coming winter 2023. Next, over at number 12, we have The Last of Us Factions. Now, this thing isn't like super official, but it's been in the works for a while, and we're hoping 2023 is the year of the release of Naughty Dog's kind of multiplayer expansion, kind of spin-off thing from The Last of Us Part 2. If you know, from the original Last of Us, the Factions multiplayer was awesome and really underrated. It does not get enough love, and to hear Naughty Dog going back to that, but kind of adding story elements and hopefully more features, we're pretty pumped. We haven't actually seen official gameplay for this yet, other than just like a couple of concept art pieces. But either way, maybe it's a little bit wishful thinking, but we're thinking 2023 is a realistic hope. Next, over at number 11, we have the Dead Space remake. EA and Motive did a really good job remaking this game. It's rebuilt from the ground up, but it is a faithful recreation of the original with just a couple of smart additions here and there just to make things a little bit more interesting. And of course, it's all packaged in some really, really incredible visuals. The original Dead Space is a classic for a reason, and if you've never played it, this is the best way to experience it. You absolutely should. Next, over at number 10, we have Diablo 4. This is releasing for all the platforms, and it's going to be an interesting one considering Activision Blizzard has certainly been having a moment. But from what we've seen of this upcoming Diablo game, it seems pretty cool. Bigger worlds, more action, more stuff you'd expect. And while we haven't touched it or jumped into any betas or anything like that yet, we're really hoping they nail this one because we love Diablo. And Diablo 3, after many years, really just became a top-tier game. So at the very least, even if Diablo 4 isn't great, we still have the originals, but either way, we'll be checking it out this summer. Next, over at number 9, we have Hogwarts Legacy. The big open-world Harry Potter game definitely is what fans are hoping for. It has a big, fully explorable Hogwarts filled with tons of side quests and hidden nuggets here and there, with a pretty beautiful world and some surprisingly satisfying combat. If you're a Harry Potter fan, you can definitely sink a ton of hours into this one. Next, over at number 8, we have Marvel's Wolverine. This game being developed by Insomniac. It's a big maybe for this list. This is probably the one where we're getting a little unrealistic, but we wanted to talk about it. Insomniac making a Wolverine game is a pretty big deal because they nailed it with Spider-Man, so for them to take on another Marvel character, I mean, like, we're signed up immediately. The teaser trailer we've seen implied that it would be a little bloody, a little gory, which is what a lot of people are really hoping for. Personally, I just would maybe love to see a glimpse of this game universe's X-Men. But who knows? Is 2023 the year? Maybe. It's a stretch, but they let me include one wishful thinking on this list, and this is my choice. Next, over at number 7, we have the Resident Evil 4 remake. Basically, if you played the Resident Evil 2 remake or the Resident Evil 3 remake, you kind of know what to expect here. But it seems like with this one in particular, Capcom is very much keeping the vibe and the kind of linearity of the original intact, with just little bits of explorable stuff via a motorboat. Otherwise, it looks like you're going through the same places, fighting the same bad guys. It seems like they might have a little bit more danger to them this time around, but also you as Leon having a bit more capability. Most notably, the ability to do some basic stealth, ducking, and parry with your knife. This game, the original, is a classic for a reason. It gets absolutely zany, and I'm curious to see how a modern game development studio takes it on. Next, over at number 6, we have Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Ubisoft has once again been cooking away on an Avatar game, and it's like one of the biggest franchises in the world, whether you like it or not. I think Avatar is pretty cool, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this first-person adventure game really has. Is it just going to be Far Cry, but on Pandora? I don't know, but I want to check out that world virtually. Details are still slight on this one, but we think this is the year, and we're probably going to hear more soon. Next, over at number 5, like I said, it's a big year for classic horror remakes. We have the Silent Hill 2 remake, being remade by Bloober Team, the people behind The Medium and Layers of Fear. From the brief glimpse we've seen, the visuals look absolutely incredible. Apparently, there's going to be a bit of an overhaul to the combat because it was pretty stiff back in the day, but they seem to be sticking pretty close to the source material. Some people don't really like Bloober Team as a developer, but I think any development team would be really excited to work on something as classic as Silent Hill 2. The original composer is back and helping out, and it's just interesting to see Konami really making games again. We hope it works out well, but like, take a shot every time you hear me say this. We're just gonna have to wait and see. Next, over at number 4, we have Star Wars Jedi Survivor. This is the follow-up to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a pretty awesome Star Wars game that took a little bit of Souls-like elements and applied it to just some good old fun Star Wars combat with an adventure that really fit in well with the Star Wars universe. It didn't feel forced, it didn't feel cynical or even half-assed. It really just worked, and it seems like they're doubling down this time around with all different fighting stance forms with your lightsaber abilities, a bigger story, but also bigger, more explorable worlds with a better map and fast travel system. We love the original, and we can't wait to get our hands on this one. Next, over at number 3, we got one of the big ones, man. It's Final Fantasy XVI. This one has been in the works for a while and seems like from the start it's a much more cohesive, well-realized thing than the messy but fun Final Fantasy XV, but it's getting really interesting here because they've recently announced that they're ditching turn-based combat. Final Fantasy XVI is all character action. They've actually hired one of the combat designers who worked on the legendary Devil May Cry games. So if you have a bit of that, but also just classic Final Fantasy staples, I'm interested. I know some people may be turned off by that and expect a more traditional JRPG, but that aside, the story they're cooking up, the larger-than-life monsters and summons, and just a little bit of a more gritty adult atmosphere, they're onto something with this one, and we can't wait to check it out. Next, over at number 2, we have Street Fighter 6. This seems like it's another big one from Capcom, introducing new characters, some really cool creative spins on old characters, and some new modes that actually are going to feature like explorable hub worlds and even a bit of an adventure. Not to mention the combat and the visuals just look downright incredible. Have you seen the new character reveal trailer with Cammy? I mean, come on. Not too much more to say about Street Fighter 6 other than that we hope it's awesome, we hope the fighting game community takes to it, and we're going to be playing it soon. Now down to number 1, we have Insomniac's Spider-Man 2. This is slated for 2023. We hope it doesn't slip out because we love Spider-Man and we'd love to have another one. This seems to feature a lot more action between Miles Morales and Peter Parker. And of course, we got a tease of Venom, voiced by none other than Tony Todd, which is a pretty cool fit. And we're really just wondering how the hell they're really going to shake this one up. Insomniac is a really creative studio, and building upon Spider-Man is something that artists, comic book writers, and movie makers have been doing for years, but in the video game sense, it's going to be really cool to see what they do. As of right now, it doesn't have a date, but we're expecting fall 2023. Now, there are so many other games to mention. We don't have time to mention all of them, but we got a couple of bonus games, including Like a Dragon Ishin. The spin-off of the Yakuza titles is absolutely awesome. Also, Black Myth Wukong. This is the Chinese mythology Souls-like game with some incredible visuals. Also, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which has recently been delayed once again, and there's some skepticism about it, but it still seems like it might be a big release. And Wild Hearts, EA's competitive answer to Monster Hunter, is pretty fun. And last but certainly not least, just because they're finally releasing it after like what feels like a decade, it's Dead Island 2. and Wo Long Fallen Dynasty, a really good Souls-like alternative from Koei Tecmo and Team Ninja. And, of course, Assassin's Creed Mirage, the back-to-basics Assassin's Creed spin-off in the Middle East, is set to drop this year. Those are some PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 games to look forward to releasing throughout 2023. Like I said, there's more to be announced and some to be delayed, but this is what we got so far, so let us know in the comments what you think. Now, if you enjoyed this video with us today where we talk video games every day, clicking a like button helps us out. That's all you gotta do. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.